Hello, and I am going to talk about my two examples for Soul Saturday for History Indoors. I was going to do it as a post, but I thought let's do a video because then I can express myself better and I can show you the two items I'm going to talk about. So, as ever, I'm going to do something a little bit unusual, but I'm going to talk about comic books or graphic novels, however you want to call them. I'm going to talk about two very, very different examples which give you a different idea of interpretations of that period of history and also national sort of memories towards it. So, first one I'm going to go with is something that some of you might know about Commando comics. Now, during my research for the First World War and interpretations and visuals, especially visual ideas of it, I'm going with this. Now, you look at it, over the top. It's really fits into the commando gung ho sort of attitude of British sort of post-war narrative, which kind of really more fits into the Second World War. Um, Flicking through it, reading some of these comics, it fits typically into the collective popular memory of the war. It's images of mud and trenches, tanks and technology. A lot of it is as well goes down the lines led by Donkey's route. So it's usually officers making loads of mistakes and the brave men still go forward, but it's a futile effort. That's generally the narrative. And I mean, the stories in here you've got, quite interestingly, look at different perspectives of the war. So it looks at generally Western Front dominated. You look at the Navy, the Air Force, and especially the Army, and different facets of the Army. So you talk about, as I say, the Royal Tank Regiment and such like. But really, it fits into a particular narrative. Now, the other example I'd like to use is a French graphic novel called God Damn This War. This is, for me, beyond a graphic novel. This is a work of art. It is incredible. Not only does it give you a fascinating insight into French memory of the First World War, it actually goes beyond the Western Front. So it's mostly Western Front led. So it talks about the French perspective, especially of like Verdun and such like. But you know, the failed sort of like offensives into Alsace-Lorraine at the start of the war and stuff. But rather beautifully, it starts off in this glorious sort of colour, and as it goes on, it slowly turns into black and white images, and the images there of death and futility, absolutely fascinating. But also, there are some wonderful pages which kind of juxtapose each other, where you've got the same suffering from each side. I'll just try and find an example here, but you've got sort of, I mean, yeah, it's typical. I can't find one when I'm trying to look for it. I really should have prepared for this. But you've got, you know, the enemy, which is common in some sort of French narratives. The enemy, but it's the same for the French and the Germans. It is the war itself. That's what becomes the enemy. So here you go. Very early example here of the troops against each other, lying down. And they charge into battle against each other and such like, and the sense of slaughter and everything is just, yeah, so powerful. And at the end of it, very interestingly, it's got a history of the First World War from the French perspective, and it also builds in social, cultural, something. There were strikes, what was going on with governments and such like, and how really a very, very interesting brief summary of the French War. I think this is amazing, but is an absolute world away from this comic. And it just makes you wonder about how different nations remember things, how different images can be used to sum up the same conflict, how memories are different between nations. And I think they're fascinating examples. Comics, who would have thought? But there you go.